All right, everybody, we welcome you in live here on a Wednesday. Excuse me. The Justin Kenner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. All right. So the trade deadline's like 6 days away in the NFL. The NFL trade deadline used to mean nothing. We, usually don't see a lot of big moves at the NFL trade deadline. That has definitely shifted and changed in recent seasons. And I guess the question I have, and the thing I always question is, and we're seeing it a lot with the Browns and the Bengals. I can't tell you how many sound bites or just segments I've heard on other shows about should the Browns trade Myles Garrett? Should the Bengals look to move on from T. Higgins or Trey Hendrickson? And I just, it's so amazing to me that we get so caught up in the season we're currently in and the season we're currently in only, that we don't sit there and process big picture. And maybe that's what some of this is. I just disagree with it. For instance, the Browns are, not good this year. We know that. And moving forward, the Browns are hoping that they can figure something out at the quarterback position and the wide receiver position and wide receiver 2 position and a couple offensive linemen. A second running back would be nice. Tight end seems to be okay. But it's besides the point. Why is it that every time a team has a bad season, right away the narrative is, all right, how many of the good players should they trade away? How about none? I get it. The team is bad. And the team that is bad that has good players, how about you keep your good players so that you're this much closer to becoming good as a whole once again? I just don't understand the concept of, well, the Browns think this year they should move on from Myles Garrett. They just paid the guy. They just gave him an extension, and they knew that the possibility, they knew there was a chance that this season could have been rough to begin with. It is rough, and I just think it's absolutely silly that we are spending, or at least I'm seeing a lot of media outlets spend so much time trying to push the narrative that the Browns need to, by the way, financially can't. That dead cap is just going to be absolutely brutal. Why do we do that? And I'm guilty of it at times too. We did it with Trey Hendrickson. Man, the Bengals are bad. They're not going to make the playoffs most likely, so they should move on from Trey Hendrickson. Or go back to what we were all saying in the offseason, or the majority of you. Keep Trey Hendrickson. Don't trade him. Extend him. And then go spend money in the offseason and add another Trey Hendrickson-type impact player. I just don't understand that mindset. You're a bad team because you don't have a lot of good players. And now you want to move on from the good players you already have? How does that make sense? How does that make them better? It doesn't. I'm not a fan of that. That's the thing that's driving me nuts. And we do this in baseball all the time. Baseball especially. I mean, this past year, oh man, because we didn't really know who the Reds were, but the second the Reds started getting a little dicey, everyone's like, well, maybe they should move on from Brady Singer. Maybe they should move on. Maybe they should hold on to their guys and add people instead of moving on from guys. I don't understand that mindset. I don't understand that concept whatsoever, that when bad teams are not, when a team is having a bad season, that they think the answer is, we don't have enough good players. So the few good players we do have, let's move on from them. Now, Trey Hendrickson's different because the Bengals have basically let you know that they don't have any interest in any kind of long-term relationship with him to begin with. So that is a little different. Cleveland, they just gave a massive extension to Myles Garrett in the offseason. And that for a short amount of time, he was the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And yeah, why would Cleveland not even a few months after getting that deal done with him all of a sudden say, well, man, we signed you thinking we were going to be good in the months of September, September and October. And since we're not, we're going to trade you now. No. It doesn't make any sense. If the Browns are going to move on from Myles Garrett, they would have done it when they could have financially afforded to, when he asked for it, and two, when they could have financially afforded to do it. Now the dead cap, there's no way they can move on from it. It doesn't make sense. I'm a Browns homer. I get it. But the Browns have a dominant side of the ball. Why would you want to weaken that? All right, the Browns have a dominant side of the ball. Their defense is dominant. Why would you even consider moving on from Myles Garrett? Well, just think of the return that you're going to get. I completely get that. but it's not the same. Like, for instance, I was watching a show earlier, and they brought up the fact that, Dallas, although they're paying for it this year, they were going to be bad with Micah Parsons. So they might as well be bad without him for a year and get those draft picks. Well, I completely get that as well. But what you're hoping is with those draft picks that you draft a player that's as impactful as Micah Parsons, and then you're right back to where you started to begin with. The difference is Cleveland's defense is really, really good with Myles Garrett. Dallas's defense was not very, very good with Micah Parsons. That's why this isn't even comparable. Is because, and it's kind of similar to Trey Hendrickson a bit too, where the Cincinnati Bengals are like, well, we probably could. I mean, the Bengals are last in pretty much every major defensive statistical category. I think it's actually kind of stupid to not trade him, because you could be the worst defense in the NFL with him. You could be the worst defense in the NFL without him. It would be silly almost to not even consider moving on from Trey Hendrickson at this point. Cleveland, however, it would be very, very silly, because you have an elite defense with Myles Garrett, and you will not have an elite defense without him. It's not the same thing. Micah Parsons is, I find the Bengals situation with Trey Hendrickson more comparable to what Dallas had with Micah Parsons than I do to the Myles Garrett situation. Cleveland would be worse without Myles Garrett. Cincinnati would not be worse without Trey Hendrickson. You statistically can't get any worse. The trade deadline 6 days away. I don't think anyone has any hot takes right now as far as who should be moved and who shouldn't be moved, as far as the teams that we follow a lot, the Browns and the Bengals. However, I do find the Trey Hendrickson thing interesting. I think that the Bengals are mathematically in it. I just don't see Trey Hendrickson making a difference down the stretch, whether they make the playoffs or not. This team with Trey Hendrickson on the field, even though he can get to the quarterback, the team just can't collectively get there. I've said it before. This isn't a shot at Trey Hendrickson. I just don't view him as an impact player. I'm still sticking to that. When I watched, and this TJ Watt is not good anymore, but I remember watching Steelers games in years past, and I was watching TJ Watt just manhandle a game by himself. I watched Myles Garrett manhandle a game by himself. I never get that vibe with Trey Hendrickson, and I'm not hating or just piling on your team. I think it would be silly at this point to keep Trey Hendrickson. And I don't think moving on from Trey Hendrickson means that they don't believe that they can make the playoffs. I just think it's one of those things where we are so bad defensively, even with him, it's not really going to hurt if we move on from him. I think that the Bengals could trade Trey Hendrickson, have a horrendous defense with or without him, and acquire a second or a third round pick for Trey Hendrickson in the back end. The Niners are desperate. The Lions are desperate. The Seahawks might be interested. I think that the Bengals should seriously consider it. Whether they actually believe that they are a legitimate playoff contender or not, they should really consider moving on from Trey Hendrickson in the next 6 days. Trey Hendrickson wanted to come back to help, for a contender. This team may not be a contender. Trey Hendrickson has demanded trades multiple times throughout his time here. Finally give him what he wants, and then you get what you want, another high draft pick. Because guess what? You need a lot of draft picks. You have a lot of holes and deficiencies, cheap ownership. They I shouldn't say cheap ownership. They have owners who are bad with money. They don't spend the money wisely. They spend their money, they just don't spend it wisely. That's why I never really get in that cheap conversation with them. I think that the Bengals aren't cheap. I just think that they spend their money poorly. I can't say they're cheap when Ja'Marr Chase was the highest paid non-quarterback for a bit. I can't say they're cheap when they paid the quarterback, Joe Burrow, $55 million. He was the highest paid player in the NFL for a moment. They're willing to spend the money, but because their practices are so dumb, they end up spending way more money than they should. Burrow, not really, but the Ja'Marr Chase and the T. Higgins and even the Trey Hendrickson thing just snowballed out of control. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Trey Hendrickson. Should the Bengals move on from him? Even if they would have won last Sunday against the Jets and were 500, I still would have said they need to move on from him because he's not a difference maker right now. And it's not all his fault. This defense is just so bad that he's not really making a difference. So if you have the worst defense in the NFL with him, you could have the worst defense in the NFL without him and get a second or a third round pick for him, which is something that you desperately need. 937-518-1410. Agree or disagree? We'll pick up with your phone calls when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers.
$14.10 ESPN Radio.
Nine 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. I'm Justin Kinner with you here on a Wednesday. It's 3:20 here in the Miami Valley. I hope everybody's had a great week. It's that cold, rainy fall weather. Ugh. But we welcome you back. So we'll open up the show again. We're 6 days away from the NFL trade deadline, and we're heading into this stretch of games where a lot of teams are just trying to figure out who they are. Not even who they are. I think there's a lot of teams who think they know who they are, but they're afraid to make any decisions at this trade deadline because mathematically, a lot of teams are still in it. Like, relax. Just let me finish my statement before you judge me. The Browns are mathematically in the playoff hunt. Kevin Stefanski has the Browns, despite the quarterback issues. Kevin Stefanski has the Browns within just a few games of a wild card spot. Yeah, that's some strong whatever it is I'm drinking during the commercial break if I truly believe that. But there are a lot of teams who are like that, who are mathematically still in the hunt. Realistically, not so much. And I think that there are a lot of teams who are confused at the moment. And I think one of the teams, if not the team, that is probably the most confused, I think that the team that is really trying to figure out who they are more than anybody else, I believe, is the Cincinnati Bengals. Mathematically, they're in it. Realistically, they're semi in it. And it has more to do with who the Steelers aren't than who the Bengals are. I think that the Steelers are a solid. Oh, they're a little below solid. And then the Bengals are a little bit below that. The Steelers still have a very tough schedule moving forward. And I think that as the Steelers continue to stub their toe moving forward, it makes them vulnerable, which then props up the Bengals accidentally. But it's hard to buy into the Bengals because they've proven they can lose to anybody. They've proven they can lose to any team. When you lose to an 0-7 New York Jets team at home, blowing a double-digit lead against that team in the second half especially, you have proven at that point you can lose to absolutely anybody. But at the same time, you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins. You've seen that this team can score at will. Some of that might be up for, a little concern. There's some injuries that have impacted the Bengals. We'll talk about that more coming up in a moment. But man, oh man, who are the Cincinnati Bengals? They are a flawed team. They're not a very good team. But I think they have a very good chance at still competing for not just the playoffs, but the division. A bad division, but a division that somebody has to win that division. And I'm going to keep pounding the table saying that. I'm going to continue to say that I think the Bengals have a legit shot. Now, again, they could shoot themselves in the foot again this week, especially if Joe Flacco doesn't play against the Bears. But I will say, if the Bengals lose and the Steelers lose, you're right back where you started a week ago. Remember when the vibes were high? You beat the Steelers 2 weeks ago. The vibes were at an all-time high. Guess what? When you beat the Steelers, you were a game and a half out of first place. Guess what happened a week later? You lost. The Steelers lost. Guess what? You're still in the same exact spot you were a week and a half ago. You're a game and a half out. Nothing's changed. And if the Steelers lose this weekend and the Bengals lose, you're still in the same spot. I told you yesterday, this season is giving me Cincinnati Reds season vibes, where 1 week you feel like, oh man, the Reds have everything you need to make it to the playoffs. They have luck on their side. And then the next series, you're like, they can't even beat the A's. They can't even beat the Marlins. They can't beat the Rockies. You know what I mean? Like we experienced that all season. That's where I'm at with the Bengals. 1 week, they're going to make you feel like, oh, they have enough. They have enough to get it done. They have enough to buy time till Joe Burrow gets back. And then we see what happened this past Sunday, and they're like, okay, no, they don't. We went through this exact same thing with the other pro team in Cincinnati for baseball season. And I think we're going to be doing the same thing again for this Bengals team. The Reds backdoored their way in to the Major League Baseball playoffs. I think that the Bengals might backdoor their way into the NFL playoffs if they do their part. If they do their part, because I think that the Steelers, with the most expensive defense in the NFL, it's almost the equivalent to the Mets, who had one of the most expensive rosters in Major League Baseball. Injuries and just the fact that they weren't very good depleted them down the stretch. And I think that's going to be the Steelers as well. I think it's almost the same scenario playing out, kind of, right? Like, that's where we're at. So the question I asked a little bit ago, when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, as the trade deadline is 6 days away, the Bengals have a decision to make. Do you move on from Trey Hendrickson? Some outlets are coming out and saying that absolutely not, or not absolutely not that they shouldn't, but that the Bengals have no interest in moving him. But I also think it's kind of silly because I think with Trey Hendrickson, even though the Bengals, who could still make the playoffs, and you're going to say, well, the only way to do that is with Trey Hendrickson. I kind of disagree with that. The Bengals statistically are the worst defensive team in the NFL. If you're doing all of this, I mean, your only hope is that the offense just stays hot, right? That's your only hope. There's no hope for the defense, okay? So at this point, you're the worst defense in the NFL with him. You could be the worst defense in the NFL without him. And at least if you're going to be the worst defense in the NFL, you might as well continue being the worst defense in the NFL while acquiring a second-round draft pick. And I'm not making that number up out of nowhere. I've watched multiple and listened to multiple shows today that said anywhere in the range of a second to third round pick is what the Bengals could realistically get for a Trey Hendrickson. So we'll see what happens. But I think that it would be silly of the Bengals not to. This idea that we got to keep him because we're still going to be in the playoff conversation. I agree you're still going to be in the playoff conversation. I disagree that you should keep him because of that, because he's not making an impact. And it's not necessarily his fault. There's just no talent around him to really enhance his ability. Can you imagine a Trey Hendrickson in San Francisco? Can you imagine a Trey Hendrickson in Detroit with Hutchinson? Can you imagine, for any team out there that adds a Trey Hendrickson, it might be painful for Bengals fans to watch, but it might be the reality check that front office needs if they watch him go elsewhere and dominate alongside other really good defensive players, because then everyone's going to look back and say, maybe we should have ignored Joe Burrow and did what responsible franchises should do and spread the money around the roster and not just put it all on the offensive side. 937-518-1410. The Bengals should do what with Trey Hendrickson? Let's go to AJ. AJ, thanks for holding. You're on live.
Hey, Justin. It's rare, but I agree with you completely. So the Bengals are still mathematically in it, but I think if you're a true Bengals fan, you see the writing on the wall. Even if we do back our way into the playoffs, I mean, what's going to come out of it? A first round loss? You're not going to make it very far with that defense. They're atrocious. And even, Trey Hendrickson's great, but standalone by himself without someone else to kind of help him along, to take off some of these double teams, he's not producing. I don't even know how many sacks he has so far this year, but it's not a lot. And I agree with you. I think, we really need to see the writing on the wall and plan for the future. Now I'm going to throw you a curveball, and I've had this discussion with a lot of my friends who are Bengals fans. I would say the same thing about T. Higgins. He was targeted 2 times last game. Andre Yoshivas was targeted more than T. Higgins was last game.
So you're not the first, AJ, real quick, you're not the first Bengals fan to bring that up this week. In fact, we had a couple other Bengals fans throughout the week mention that. Are we overreacting to that slightly? It was only 2 targets. He did not make an impact this past week, but the week before that against the Steelers, I mean, he had 9 targets and a handful of catches that night and had a huge game against Pittsburgh. Are we so angry about that Jets game that we're maybe slightly overreacting to some of those things, like the T. Higgins production, for instance?
Maybe slightly, but I think the value that you can get for him long term, considering where the Bengals stand on the rest of the team, I mean, you gotta take the value where you can. And I would say that T is the most valuable asset that the Bengals have right now that they would be even considering willing to trade it. They're not going to get rid of Jamar. They're not going to get rid of Joe, obviously, but you got to improve. And to take to your point, which you said very, very often, Joe Burrow should be able to produce with 1 number 1 receiver.
Yes.
He doesn't need 2 number 1 receivers.
And that's not a Bengals hater take. That's my mindset for any elite quarterback out there. I don't think an elite quarterback needs multiple elite wide receivers. Or what I mean by that is they don't financially need 2 elite wide receivers. If you happen to draft a couple, more power to you. But I don't think this team desperately needs to financially prioritize paying wide receivers like that when you have Joe Burrow and have Jamar Chase especially.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, you can get an elite wide receiver in the draft, get him cheap. You're not paying him number one money. And it's one of those things where you got to test Joe Burrow. Like, how elite is he? You know, Josh Allen is producing just fine without two number one receivers. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's got what? Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and old Travis Kelce. Like, he doesn't have the firepower that Joe Burrow has. So, you know, if this team is going to be elite, the money needs to be spent on the defense. The defense has always been the Achilles heel for the Bengals, even leading up to when they were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the ironic part
Had we
was
had an elite defense or a higher quality defense in the Super Bowl, that game would have ended a lot differently.
Yeah, and the thing is too is like kind of knowing your limitations a little bit. Like the Bengals, they struggle drafting offensive linemen and apparently anyone on defense at this point. It's like, okay, if you know that, then you need to overcompensate for your inability to be able to pinpoint talent at the college level when you draft them. I think they need to spend way more dollars on the defensive side in free agency. And then, yes, they do need to hit in the draft. Otherwise, none of this matters. But they also need to financially invest into it in free agency. They did that a few years ago when, you know, obviously they went out and got DJ Reader. You had Trey Hendrickson. You went and got Mike Hilton. They went and they invested financially into the defense, all while drafting Logan Wilson and some of these other guys. And it was a perfect blend. I think they need to go back to that mindset. This idea that they're going to draft every position and try to win with second and third year players, that was never a smart concept at all, especially for an organization like the Bengals.
It's poor player evaluation.
Yep.
When it comes down to it. And I'm going to harken back to the comment that I said earlier this week. It is Duke Tobin.
Mm-hmm.
He is not an effective, whatever his title is, general manager, whatever. He's connected at the hip with the Browns. He's been in that position for 25 years, and he's got so much leeway that it's ridiculous. And he hasn't done anything outside of Jamar and Joe. He hasn't drafted effectively, brought free agents in effectively. Like, players are not being developed, like young talent. Like, but that's never going to happen. I mean, you know how stubborn the Browns are and set in their ways.
Yeah.
Duke Tobin's got a cushy position. He's not going anywhere.
Nope, they're not. But hey, AJ, I always appreciate when you call, man. Thank you.
Hey, Justin.
Yep, take care. 937-518-1410. And you know, AJ brings up a lot of good, a lot of good points, especially about the Brown family. And you always got to question their urgency or their competitive drive to win at the highest level. This is an investment. Owning the Bengals is an investment to them. The only thing they care about is getting a financial return. And guess what they are getting? Because you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you have exciting players, you're going to go to the ballgame. You're going to watch. You're going to buy tickets. You're going to buy jerseys. They're making money. Like, at the end of the year, from a business perspective, at the end of the 2025 season, the Brown family, if you ask them from a business perspective, was this season a success? From a business side, yes, there's not many seasons where business-wise it wasn't during this Joe Burrow era. This is going to be most likely, I still think they have a chance, but it is most likely going to be the third. You have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And this will most likely be the third straight season that they do not make the postseason. But from a financial standpoint, from a revenue standpoint, this will be a successful year for the Brown family. And that's a problem. You know, say what you want about this. Is why when people rip Jerry Jones and they rip these meddling owners, I know it's annoying, but I would rather have an owner that cares way too much, like a Jerry Jones, than a guy that can't stay awake like Mike Brown. I would much rather deal with the meddling owner that is willing to finance, like, that might be a little too, quick with the trigger when it comes to moving on from coaches or moving on from whatever. I would much rather deal with that than the cool, calm, and collected Brown family who's, all right, what's our bottom line? Oh, we're doing pretty well. Oh, we're under 500, but as long as our bottom line's okay, that it's a lot of give and take, but it's a lot of taking for the Brown family, and it's a lot of giving of patience for Bengals fans, no doubt about it. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. We were not live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, but we are now. My apologies. We were streaming to the wrong Facebook page, but we are back up. We are on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. All right, so that's where we're going to pick up when we come back. I say this all the time. You guys hear me say it all the time, but I am curious your guys' thoughts on this. There is mathematically being in it and realistically in it, and it's a simple question. This is easy. This is just a yes or a no. And I want you guys to leave the comments in the chat. So head to the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. You can watch the show live there. I want you guys to put your answer in the chat. Okay, I want to know, all right, as where we sit right now, the Bengals, they're mathematically in it, but are they realistically in it? I'm curious your guys' thoughts. Or you can call the show at 937-518-1410. We'll be right back.
here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, and we are back. I'm Justin Kinner with you here, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410. We'll get your calls coming up in just a second. Let's reset here. The trade deadline 6 days away. The Bengals are mathematically still in it. Are they realistically still in it? And I want to say no. When your offensive line isn't good, you struggle to run the football, and your defense is the worst defense in the NFL, it's hard for me to say that you're anywhere close to being in it. But I don't trust the Steelers. But the Steelers are better coached. I do think they have better talent. But they also, very similarly to Cincinnati, have the same deficiencies. Their offensive line's not great. They're not a great running team, and their defense isn't very good. The Bengals' defense is worse, though. But the Bengals' offense is way better, or at least when the quarterback is healthy. Or I should say quarterbacks, because when Joe Burrow is healthy, obviously we know how good the Bengals are. And when Joe Flacco is healthy, we know how good this Bengals team has the capabilities of being. According to Ian Rappaport, ESPN's Adam Schefter, and other NFL insiders and reporters, this was announced earlier today. And again, it happened in the loss against the Jets. Bengals quarterback Joe Flacco is dealing with an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder, and his status is up in the air for Sunday against the Bears. Flacco, remember, left the loss against the Jets, then came back late, didn't look like himself. Head coach Zach Taylor called him day-to-day. Jake Browning could potentially be the starting quarterback for the Bears matchup coming up this weekend. Ian Rappaport also goes on to say that Coach Zach Taylor said one issue is because Joe Flacco has only been here, 3 weeks, there really isn't the experience there to know what he can do on a limited, on very limited reps. Him coming in, so quickly and then being the starter for the Packers game, they had enough time to work together just to throw out a limited package, as we saw against Green Bay. We saw them open it up more against Pittsburgh. But with him not really participating in any on-field activities throughout this week, it's one of those they don't really know what to expect of him and what he can expect from them if he is thrown out there on Sunday. The bottom line is it feels like the season is on the line coming up this Sunday. It feels like the season is on the line this Sunday. And that's a problem, that's a concern, because you don't have everyone fully healthy, ready to go. Logan Wilson today, who has demanded a trade and his usage has been diminished anyways, they said, and unless anyone has seen an updated report, the last tweet I saw was that he was just sitting on a stationary bike. He wasn't out participating with his teammates in practice. So he's demanded a trade. It sounds like he's not really being very overly active at practice. Trey Hendrickson's beat up and injured as well. So mathematically, yes. Realistically, I don't know. Is this team in the playoff hunt? 937-518-1410. Let's go to Cincinnati. We got Biff. Biff in Cincinnati. You're on live, sir.
Hey, first of all, Justin, I just want to say I love listening to you because you're a very reasonable man. I know you don't hear that a lot, but you actually are.
I appreciate that.
I know you don't hear it a lot. I know you get a lot of. I'm one of the only 7 Seahawks fans in Cincinnati, and so I'm looking at this objectively. I really would love to say that Cincinnati's realistically still in it. I mean, if mathematically is what they always want to fall back on. But with Joe Flacco already being a little injured, being a 41-year-old quarterback with an injury, that's the one thing you couldn't have. You got to keep him healthy to be good enough to even contend. And you're going to have Lamar Jackson coming back. I don't trust the Steelers to stay good all season. But I do think that within a week or two, you could have the Steelers and the Ravens sitting basically in the same spot. And then, of course, whoever represents the AFC North is just going to fail out in the first or second round of the playoffs anyway, because unless you just happen to flip a coin and God gives you a magic wand, you're not going to make the Super Bowl like Cincinnati did a few years back. I mean, that was just a coin flip of fate. But I really think that you're right. I don't think that Cincinnati is realistically in it. I mean, if you looked exactly what you were just talking about, the defense, the offensive line, do you disagree? I don't think you disagree. I don't see how there's a realistic chance with other teams coming on the up and Cincinnati now already knocked down and then taking another hit. that to me kind of says, Trey Hendrickson.
Well, Biff, here's the thing, and here's why. For one, I agree with everything you're saying to a certain extent, but there's one X factor in all of this, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Keep in mind, like the Bengals don't have to be better than the Steelers over the next couple of weeks. They just have to match their result. And what I mean by that is the Steelers lost this past week. So did the Bengals. Nothing really changed since the win, against Pittsburgh. The Steelers, they have the Colts, the hottest team in football, coming up. They could realistically lose that. Even if Cincinnati loses this weekend, as long as the Steelers lose, they're fine. And then the Steelers have the Chargers on the road the following week, and then they have the Bengals again. And by that point, you would like to think Joe Flacco hopefully is healthy. The next 3 games for Pittsburgh, I think, also decide Cincinnati's fate as well, because you said teams. I don't think this is about teams. I think this is about one team, and I think that is Pittsburgh. Everyone wants to say Lamar's going to come, bringing the Ravens back. The Ravens may get Lamar back, but their defense is shredded right now with injuries, and they're not getting those guys back for at least another month. So the AFC North is wildly wide open. Someone has to win it. It's going to be a below-average team. That's why Cincinnati, it's tough to say they don't have a shot, because they kind of do, as weird as it sounds.
I know one last thing.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the AFC North. The AFC North is more like, trying, like I'm from Alaska originally. That's why I'm a Seahawks fan. If I had a bear in the woods, it's the AFC North now, is what you're saying. And I agree with you. I think that's a great point. I don't need to be faster than the bear. I just need to be faster than you.
Yeah. Can you
I'm going to survive.
It's a game of keep away at this point, nonetheless.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree with you. I'm 100% on board. You're right.
But hey, Biff, I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate you listening, and I definitely appreciate you calling. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
937-518-1410. Let's go to Ed. Ed, thanks for holding. You're on live, sir.
Hey, Justin, if Browning starts, they can't beat the Browns or the Bears.
Snoop Huntley just beat the Bears this past weekend, which is just wild to me.
I know, but the Bengals defense, if they couldn't stop the Jets, if the Jets score 39, the Bears will score 50.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm amazed is that, I watch Ohio State because they're undefeated. They're kicking butt. But why? I haven't even bothered watching the Browns or the Bengals since like first couple of weeks. It's just not worth watching. And I can't believe the amazing thing is, like for Cleveland, they're still getting 64,000 people in that stadium.
I was one of those 64,000 people 2 weeks ago standing in the pouring rain, but at least I got to watch a rare victory for old Cleveland. But no, look, I think the Bengals fans, at least those games are entertaining. I don't think the result of the game over the weekend was entertaining, but you're on the edge of your seat. You're watching, entertaining football. It's back and forth, but it's interesting. Ed, I think we lost you there. Call back. We'll get you back in line. But no, look, I know what you're saying. So if you're just joining us, Ed just called and said, luckily, for the Buckeyes, they're undefeated. They're dominating their opponents, but it's been tough watching the Browns and Bengals. Well, no kidding. The Browns are hard to watch. They're very good defensively, but offensively, they are a train wreck. They are not fun to watch as far as that goes. But the Bengals, I still think, are fun to watch. Joe Flacco makes them fun to watch. That offense is fun to watch. And you guys may not agree because it's your team, and watching your team play embarrassingly bad defense may not feel fun, but at least you're invested into the game. You're asking a Browns fan to feel bad for you. I don't, because I'm watching a game. Like, the Browns defense for 3 games this year has held opponents to only field goals in the first half, and they've lost by double digits in every one of those because the offense can't score. So at least if it was the opposite, it would be fun to just watch the offense score points and be able to cheer for touchdowns and to be able to, I can't do any of that. At least you guys put up 38 points. I don't feel bad for you. I can sympathize with you. I just don't feel bad for you. I find those games to be very entertaining, the Bengals games. But the result, that's tough. That's tough. Nonetheless, that's why the Dodgers in baseball have been so fun to watch all season. They're the best team in baseball, no doubt about it, but their record didn't really truly indicate that, because they lost a lot of games this year because they scored a lot of runs. Their starting pitching was good, but their bullpen was bad. So what would happen is the Dodgers would get out to leads, early leads. They'd score runs like that powerful lineup can do. And it looked like they were well in control because they have good starting pitching. But every time they'd go to the bullpen, it was a 9-inning, hold your breath, can they pull it off type of situation. Dodger games are fun to watch all season. It's not like they dominated teams. It was a hold your breath situation almost every other night in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. But the difference is they found ways to win. Cincinnati keeps finding ways to lose in those particular situations. But either way, this conversation started. The caption I think is we threw out there for the show today was, why are we so obsessed when teams are bad? Why are we always trying to force them to trade away their good players? Teams are bad because they don't have good players. Well, if you don't have good players, then don't trade the few good players that you do have. I'm so tired of tuning into sports talk throughout the day and hearing how the Browns need to trade Myles Garrett. That's the only identity that they have at the moment. Why would you? This guy had he has 10 sacks. He's had double-digit sacks for 8 straight years. All right. He's just a physical specimen. The dude is unbelievable. Why would the Browns trade him? Oh, so they can get more draft picks. Okay, that's a reason, but is it a good one? That's a reason, but is it a good one? You have a dominant side of the ball. The defense is elite. Why would the Cleveland Browns move on from Myles Garrett? I think that's a horrible mindset to have, and Cleveland is not even entertaining it. You would like to think so, but they gave him the $40 million a year contract just a few months ago after he demanded a trade. Then he was happy. Most people are if you put $40 million a year in front of them. I know I would be. But the bottom line is we do this all the time. Every time a team is struggling, we right away start looking at their roster and say, let's trade that good player, that good player, that good player, or bring that good player back next year and go get more good players in the offseason. I hate that mindset, and we do it in baseball all the time. It's ridiculous. Every time, a team is not playing as well as what they're anticipated to, the answer is, well, we got to get rid of our good players. Or stop what you're doing, add more good players to your current good players. Voila. Maybe I'm making it too simplistic, and I know that I am, but at the same time, I just don't get why we always do that. Trey Hendrickson, though, is different, as I stated earlier. I think the Bengals should move on from Trey Hendrickson, not because the Bengals are playing poorly. It's because I don't think he makes an impact, and here's why. Myles Garrett is arguably the best defensive player in football right now, and he's on a top 3 defense statistically in the NFL. He's making an impact. He is making a difference. The only reason Cleveland has a shot to win games is because of him and because of that side of the ball. You take Myles Garrett away from Cleveland, they're significantly worse. If you take Trey Hendrickson away from Cincinnati, I don't think that makes them worse. You are the worst. Your team has the worst defense in the NFL with him. You take him away, you're still going to have the worst defense in the NFL, but at least you'll have a second or a third round draft pick on top of it. And with how many holes and deficiencies that this team has, they need every draft pick imaginable, because even though they do have a handful of picks next year, the success rate, the hit rate for Duke Tobin and that front office as of late has been so slim that he needs as many draft picks as possible just to increase the likelihood of at least 2 or 3 of these guys panning out. I think that the Bengals, no matter what happens on Sunday, should move on from Trey Hendrickson. The defense is the worst in the NFL with him. So if you're going to have the worst defense in the NFL, you might as well have your cake and eat it too. Have the worst defense in the NFL and Trey Hendrickson and not have him for the future, or have the worst defense in the NFL without Trey Hendrickson and get a high premium draft pick for next year. I think it's pretty simple. I know which one I would be pulling for because I don't think his situation is similar to others. So there you go. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. I also want to give a shout out to our other sponsor of the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton Weight Loss Secret. The Dayton Weight Loss Secret program has successfully helped thousands of people, including myself, lose 20 to 30 pounds in the first month or 2. Schedule your free consultation in person or virtually by calling 937-999-1480 or online at DaytonWeightLossSecret.com. No injections, no endless workouts, no pre-ordered meals that come arriving on your doorstep that look better on the package than when you open them up and microwave them. None of that. You lose weight, reset your metabolism, and it sets you for a much healthier path moving forward. And I tell you what, it's been a very rewarding thing for me to be a part of, and I promise it will be the same for you. Give them a call today, 937-999-1480 for your free consultation, or you could schedule it online at DaytonWeightLossSecret.com.
the latest looks all for under $30. With new arrivals every day, you never know what you'll find. Find a location at Macy'sBackstage.com.
Justin and Kim Show. Been expecting you. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, and we are back. I'm Justin Kinner with you here, Dayton's ESPN Radio 1410 Wing AM. A lot of trade talk discussion. I mean, I tell you what, I really don't know, and we've thrown this question out all week about which fan base has it worse. You know, Browns fans or Bengals fans right now? Like, who's enjoying their season less? I mean, it's hard for me to sit there and say that it's the Bengals, mainly because, like, your team's still mathematically in it. Your team plays entertaining games. But I get your quarterback's out. Your players are hurt. You know, that you've been reminded again that your front office is just a bunch of boneheads. Like, it's just, I get it. But I'm telling you, you guys could at least sit down and watch an entertaining football game every Sunday. I can't. I still think Browns fans have it worse this year. And not overall, but this year, I do think that Browns, you can't watch the Browns. They are unwatchable with Dillon Gabriel. So I you know, I do come across a lot that I think I'm always right and everybody else is always wrong, but I'm willing to change my opinion as situations or just more details come out. And I was a pro Kevin Stefanski guy for the longest time, but for everyone out there that thinks that he has a vendetta against Shedeur Sanders, I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world. I thought, you know, keep in mind, like, this is an organization that has been desperately in need of a quarterback for 3 decades now. So I had a hard time believing that if they truly had a super talented quarterback on the roster, why would a team that has been desperate for a quarterback for 3 decades, a coach that is almost coaching for his job at this point, why would an organization and a coach have a super talented quarterback on the bench and just not play him? I just said that doesn't make any sense. But then I forgot that it's Cleveland. Then I forgot that it's the Browns. And I think Kevin Stefanski, who I've been a big advocate for. I think that, you know, everyone says that quarterback, like, I disagree with a lot of narratives that are floated around out there that you got to leave Cleveland to be good. Keep in mind, Baker Mayfield was good in Cleveland. Remember, that's why you guys keep saying, I can't believe you guys just let him go. Remember that? Yeah, I remember that. Joe Flacco, Joe Flacco had to leave Cleveland to be good. Joe Flacco was good in Cleveland. Joe Flacco led them to the playoffs under Kevin Stefanski. He also had Amari Cooper, and he had, you know, very good pass catchers. He had a very good offensive line. He had Nick Chubb. Like, let's not twist this any more than what it needs to be. Cleveland deserves it, but I'm just saying, I hope that you guys are just being trolls and not actually delusional enough to think that you have to leave Cleveland to be good. Baker Mayfield was good in Cleveland. Jacoby Brissett was good in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski won with DTR. He won with a lot of quarterbacks in Cleveland. Let's not do this, okay? Because the narrative heading into last year is that Deshaun Watson needs to be removed from the Browns because this was the narrative last year. Kevin Stefanski could win with every quarterback. He's won with every quarterback that he has had in Cleveland except one, and that was Deshaun Watson. And then guess what? Dillon Gabriel stinks. 40-year-old Joe Flacco 2 years later. Now all of a sudden, Kevin Stefanski can't win with these quarterbacks. I disagree with it. However, I think Kevin Stefanski's lost his damn mind this year. I don't know how you can watch Dillon Gabriel. Like, this is the NFL. We know very quickly, okay, whether you could play or not. Like, even Sam Darnold took a few years for him to finally click. But even in the years that he wasn't clicking, there was something there. He could complete a pass. He would have a good quarter. He would have multiple good series. He would make bad decisions, which is why he hopped around a lot. But ultimately, there was something there. Baker Mayfield couldn't stay healthy, had an attitude problem, was very inconsistent. He had the injury to the shoulder, but there was something there. You knew Baker Mayfield had something. You knew he was capable of being a quarterback in the NFL. Dillon Gabriel, not so much. Dillon Gabriel does not look like a quarterback. And in fact, when half your play calls are designed to protect his limitations, I would love to know which plays bring out his strengths, because I don't think he has any. Kevin Stefanski is so obsessed with calling plays built around his deficiencies to protect him from it that he has yet to call any offensive plays that enhance his strengths. The deep balls he threw were ducks. I mean, they just floated in the air. He threw it into double coverage. Like there's not one play I've seen this kid make where I'm like, there it is. That's that special. I mean, I forgot too, because I went to the Rose Bowl and I watched him suck it up there too. Like I should have known, like, oh, this is how he is against NFL talent. He's not good. Dillon Gabriel was very good in college. I'm not that delusional, but Dillon Gabriel just, I'm not a big fan of organizations who just do the measurable stuff. Like the Bengals, for instance, it's all about the measurables. That's why they took Shamar Stewart. Well, his numbers don't look like Myles Garrett, but he physically looks like Myles Garrett, so we're going to draft him. Like, I disagree with that, but I do think that should play a role in some things. The Browns are just ignoring that. They brought in a 40-year-old quarterback, and they brought in Mr. Dillon Gabriel, of course, with Shedeur and Kenny Pickett and all this other stuff. This has just been a mess. I was wrong. I thought that Cleveland, there's no way that they would, I had faith in Dillon Gabriel at first because I'm like, if Kevin Stefanski is coaching for his career and he's willing to attach his reputation to him, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to say he's good. He's not good. He's not good. And I haven't played a down of quarterback ever, not even in Pee Wee. I maybe threw the football around with some friends. I don't know a damn thing, but like we all know as fans, you could see it. We could all see it. If he could do it. There's not one little thing he's done since arriving in the NFL preseason, anything that has looked impressive. Nothing. I'm over it. And the thing is I talked earlier about the Bengals being mathematically in it. Are they realistically in it? I think the Steelers are going to allow the Bengals to remain in it. If you look at the Bengals, they have the Colts coming up. And then who did I say they had earlier? I'm sorry. This is where my brain is getting all foggy. I apologize. But the Steelers over the next two. Oh, yeah. They have the Colts, the best team in football right now. And then they have the Chargers on the road the following week. Like, I think that the Steelers are going to allow the Bengals to remain in this. But also, the Browns are a 2-win team. If the Bengals are mathematically in it, the Bengals have one more win than Cleveland. They're still in it too. And I don't think they're going to remain in it, by the way. I'm not advocating that, so relax. I'm not being a homer. But my point is this might be your last chance to stay mathematically in it. So why are you going to be stubborn with Dillon Gabriel? Why not? Like, can you imagine, by the way? Like, because here's what I don't want to have happen in Cleveland. I don't want them to go to Shedeur Sanders over the last 4 weeks, and then Shedeur just balls out. The offense comes to life, and then everyone's like, man, if only they would have gone to him sooner. I would much rather the Browns make a mistake of going to Shedeur too soon than going to him too late, because the division sucks. The Steelers are interesting. I like Aaron Rodgers. The only thing about the Steelers organization I like is Aaron Rodgers. Outside of that, I think Mike Tomlin's overrated as hell. I can't stand it. I can't stand the Steelers. My good friend Kev Nash, if he's listening, he knows I don't like his Pittsburgh Steelers. He knows I'm not a big Mike Tomlin fan. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I do like Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers makes them interesting. Way more interesting than Kenny Pickett and way more interesting than Mitch Trubisky and all the other mess they tried throwing out there in recent years. But they're defensively flawed. They're old. They're their offensive line's not very good. They can't run the football. Look, the bottom line is mathematically, the Browns are still in this, as dumb as it sounds. And with that defense, you don't even need to average 30 points a game. But you got to get Dillon Gabriel gives you 0% chance of winning football games. Even the game that they won, I was in Cleveland a few weeks ago when they beat the Dolphins. That was a 3-touchdown game from Quinshon Judkins. That wasn't oh my gosh, the offense came to life. Thank goodness. I mean, the passing game. No, it was all the run game. You're not going to win a lot of games in the NFL only relying on your run game and defense. You have to have somewhat of a complementary pass game. And this is how bad I know this is, because no one says that. Usually you say, all right, you have to have somewhat of a complementary run game to your pass game, not complementary pass game. What are we doing here? Like, this is ridiculous. What I do not want to see is Cleveland. I don't want to see, Shedeur Sanders look elite in the final month of the season when it's too late. Like I said before, I would much rather the Browns make a mistake by going to Shedeur Sanders too early than going to him too late. Because can you imagine coming out of the bye week, Shedeur Sanders lights up the Jets defense? The Browns, complimentary football. Shedeur looks great. Quinshon's running all over the place. Harold Fandon Jr. making plays. Myles Garrett, another 3 or 4 or 5 sack performance again. The defense dominates, and now the Browns have momentum heading into the back half of the season, and they're right back in it mathematically. Realistically, I don't know, but mathematically. The Steelers are a 4-win team. The Browns have 2 wins. Should have 3 wins if they would have beat Cincinnati in week 1, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah, I know. Man, oh man. I'm getting heated though. I was very defensive of Kevin Stefanski. I wanted to believe that he was making the right choice, but he's not. I don't know how you can watch Cleveland. I don't know how you could watch the Browns and think that there's anything there with Dillon Gabriel. And if you are like, if he needs 6, 7, 8 games to show that he can complete a pass, guys, what are we doing? This is the NFL. Joe Burrow, when he got into the league, he was a rookie. He was young, but you saw it. You just knew. Justin Herbert, same thing. Even Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't put up great numbers early on, but my God, he looked the part. He was a physical specimen. He can make plays with his legs. Dillon Gabriel, he would at least, he's not much more versatile with his legs than Joe Flacco was. In fact, Joe Flacco has made more plays with his legs for the Bengals than we've seen at all from Dillon Gabriel. I can't do this. I can't watch another game I will not watch the Browns. The Browns and the Jets in the Who's Worse Bowl. I don't want to watch that, and I will not watch that if Dillon Gabriel is the quarterback coming out of the bye week. It has to be Shedeur Sanders, and it won't. But that's going to be the problem. They're going to come out and lose to a 1-win team and be embarrassed, and then what? And then make the switch to Shedeur? Why not make the switch to Shedeur now? Give him 2 weeks to prepare for a 1-win team. Pick up your 3rd win of the season. The Steelers have the Colts. They lose. Now you're within a game of the Steelers at the top of the division along with the Bengals. Like, the Browns are right there. The Bengals are right there. Hell, the Ravens, a 1-win team for the longest time. They just got their 2nd win. They're right back in this as well. Everyone is back in it in the AFC North. And Kevin Stefanski wants to be a moron and continue to roll out Dillon Gabriel. If I see Dillon Gabriel start for the Browns in a loss against the Jets, oh, man. I might accidentally sneeze and say who day. It's going to piss me off like you would not believe if that ends up being the case. Browns fans, if you're listening, I really need to know, how are you holding up here? If you're not a Browns fan and you're watching this situation, how I would be making fun of us too. Like I said, if you lose with Shedeur, that means you've exhausted all your bullets. You shot everything out early with Joe Flacco. It didn't work. You tried Dillon Gabriel. Didn't work. It doesn't work with Shedeur. That's the thing with Cleveland. If it doesn't work with Shedeur, it's Cleveland. No one's really expecting it to work. Everyone's hoping it works because Shedeur Sanders, if Shedeur leads Cleveland to the playoffs after the horrific start that they had, imagine the storyline. There's no better or bigger story in the NFL than that. But at least give that storyline a chance. Give your organization a chance. How can you look at anything that Dillon Gabriel has done in the last month and think that, okay, coming out of the bye week, he gives us a chance? I would much rather the Browns go to Shedeur Sanders too early than wait too long and go to him too late. Because I don't want to see the Browns mathematically out of it and then Shedeur get the starts and then Shedeur look good. Because if that's the case, fire Stefanski at that moment, because Stefanski would be the single-handed reason why the Browns miss the playoffs if that's the case. I would much rather the Browns lose with Shedeur Sanders moving forward than Dillon Gabriel. And it's not Dillon Gabriel's fault, but my goodness, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's a train wreck. Watching him is painful. I can't do it. I can't do it. Justifying the draft order, sure evident Gabriel lacks the arm talent. Oh, I'm kind of upset that you're using the word talent. I don't see any talent. But yeah, it's wild. And by the way, there's either 2 ways to look at this. Maybe I'm mad at Kevin Stefanski right now, but maybe it's, man, if Dillon Gabriel is this bad, we're all just assuming that Shedeur's better. But maybe maybe Kevin Stefanski's saying, no, we're not going to go to Shedeur because I know he's worse than this. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's preseason. I'm not going to pretend to put a lot into preseason, but Shedeur looked the part even in preseason. He just looked like a quarterback. Dillon Gabriel does not. Look, and I'm a short guy myself. I should be sympathizing with the little guys. With the little people. I should be sympathizing with old Dillon Gabriel. I can't. He's giving us a bad name. I don't like when other small people ruin it for the other small people, and he's ruining it for everybody else. Him and Tua, both. Adam Seldner on Facebook says Dillon Gabriel is only worth watching during the first 10 to 15 scripted plays. That's the other thing. I've asked buyers and I've asked other NFL players when I've had the chance to sit with them and just say, hey, do you guys believe in that, in the scripted play narrative? Like, why is it that Cleveland and a lot of teams are like that? A lot of teams, Cincinnati, even like when Joe Burrow is healthy, it's like that a lot for Cincinnati too, where they always march down the field, score, and then they go cold for a while. It's like that seems to be a lot of teams. For a lot of pro players I talk to, they say that's not the case. I don't know. It's hard to say it's not the case, but I'm not going to tell a former player that they're wrong. But why is it that, the very first play of the game, Cleveland has scored on their opening drive on 4 of the 8 games this season. That's a 50-50. I get it. It's not great, but that's probably the only offensive stat that they can hang their hat on this year. The only positive storyline to the Browns offense is that, hey, half the time they could score on the opening drive. That's the only good thing about them. And it's not even good. Adam goes on to say, it seems that the Browns front office and head coach are scared to be wrong about their evaluation of Shedeur Sanders, because if he does succeed, then they won't hear the end of it. Yeah, and you're right, Adam, because I also get that vibe as well, that if he is good, that's a bad thing for the head coach. And the head coach is being selfish right now. He's more worried about how he's going to look than how the team is going to look. But he's too stupid to realize that if Shedeur goes out there and balls out and the team looks good, yes, he's going to look bad for a minute, but that's why you go to Shedeur now. Because if Shedeur does have what it takes to win you football games, you should do it while you're a 2-win team along with Baltimore. Cincinnati's mathematically in it. They're a 3-win team. And Pittsburgh, who has to play the Colts and at the Chargers the next 2 weeks. The Browns just have to win one of the next 2 weeks, and they're within a game of the division. Like, it's not that crazy. It sounds so stupid, but I do know this. With Dillon Gabriel, they don't have a shot. They have a shot with Shedeur. I want to see Shedeur out there. If Shedeur goes out there and stinks it up, oh well, Browns fans, we all go to bed at night knowing that they fired every bullet in the chamber. But I can't sit here and act like Dillon Gabriel's the only option. This is horrible. I can't watch it. Can't watch it, and I won't. I'm telling you right now, I'm not even going to talk Browns. If Dillon Gabriel has the nerve, and it's not up to him, but if Kevin Stefanski has the nerve to trot out little old Dillon Gabriel against the Jets, I'm not watching it. I'm not going to check the score. I'm not going to tune in. Even if they win and Dillon Gabriel plays great, okay, fine. I've had egg on my face before. I've had to eat crow before. I don't think I'm going to have to eat crow on this one. And I think for the first time, a lot of my listeners agree with me on something. Doesn't happen often, but I think we can all agree Dillon Gabriel stinks. I think we can all agree on that. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, 937-518-1410. We'll be right back.
It's Justin Kinner Show. We've been expecting you. Right here on 1410 ESPN.
Site Gunsmith. Stop by Old English Outfitters.
Justin Kinsel, we've been expecting you. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. College basketball coming up here in 5 days, as the Flyers reminded us today. In fact, a very strange Twitter post from them earlier today, which we'll get to in a moment. But I thought this was interesting. This came out earlier. This came out yesterday, actually, yesterday evening. The NCAA is delaying the rule change, allowing athletes to bet on pro sports. The NCAA is delaying a rule change that will allow athletes and athletic department staff members to bet on professional sports. So, again, there was a lot of noise surrounding this, mainly because of the fact that people just don't want college athletes to be able to bet on any sports whatsoever because of the black cloud that is following all of sports due to, gambling when it comes to that either way. But the Division I board voted on Tuesday to push back the effective date of the sports betting legislative change, moving it from November 1st to November 22nd, one day after the close of a membership rescission period. Now, a rarely used rule allows about 30 days for each Division I school to vote to rescind a particular proposal if that rule has ended up being adopted by less than 75% of the D1 cabinet. So I don't really care about all this, but the bottom line is there's a lot of controversy surrounding this. I will say I see a lot of people overreacting to this. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I could see if this, I don't know why people freaked out about this. Why can't, if I am, if I'm Adam Jai and if I want to place a bet on the Lakers, why can't I? Why can't I? I don't understand why I can't do that. I'm not betting on my team. I'm not betting on college basketball. I don't understand why that's a problem. But there's a lot of, there's a lot of danger there. What danger? Kids making bad decisions. Kids make bad decisions no matter what. Look, I saw it last night. The, UD on Twitter, they put out their Bud Light fan of the game. You know how many DUIs there are in this city? In this state, in this country, in the world? How come we don't overreact to that stuff? Okay, how come that's not a problem to have Bud Light sponsoring our youth? Our college athletes. The stars of tomorrow. How come it's not? How come it's okay to have that, but we can't have the UD fan of the game presented by FanDuel? Why is that? Why? I think we got to stop with this stuff, man. I get it. And what I mean by this stuff, if an athlete decides that they are going to go into business for themselves and they're going to shave points with their performance, or they're going to turn the ball over on purpose because they know the point spread or because they know the game's on the line or whatever, then they should be dealt with respectively based on whatever the punishment rightfully so is for said punishment, crime, whatever. Just like if an athlete who, plays on a team that has Bud Light as its sponsor gets a DUI, they should be punished accordingly. I don't get this. Why are we giving gambling its own little set of rules, but every other vice that's out there, we just ignore and act like it's no big deal? I don't understand it. I just think that, young athletes, they're going to make mistakes. They should be held accountable. Move on. Stop trying to hold their hand and baby them and try to take away. We can't have sports gambling ads because they might bet on sports. They're doing it anyways. They're just finding other channels to do it. You're too silly to realize that, all of these athletes who are getting caught, they weren't getting caught before because sports gambling wasn't legal. The reason they're getting caught now is because it's legal and there's more regulation and there's just more, radar out there to catch some of these things. sports betting being legal is actually helpful because there are practices in place to track down and track these situations. Can't do it when everything's illegal and everything's happening underground. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay what these players have been accused of or what they've potentially done. It's definitely not okay. Just like it's not okay if a player gets a DUI. Just like it's not okay if a player skips class. And I'm not comparing all these things like that, based on severity level. They're all different, but I'm just saying these are young athletes. These are young adults who are going to make stupid decisions. That's what these guys do. And clearly it's not a young adult thing. Terry Rozier is not a young adult. He's just an idiot. And he may not be a bad person. Like Adam Jai hasn't been found guilty of anything, but the bottom line is if he did do it, I don't think anything less of him. I don't think that the kid's a bad person. I think that as a young adult, if an opportunity is in front of you to help you make money or your buddies make money, I'm not saying it's right, but come on. Young and dumb. Not young and bad person, just young and dumb. Make it, and if he did do it, he should be held accountable for it in whatever that means. I'm so over all of this with people acting like, oh man, thank goodness they changed this. This is just horrendous. The NCAA delaying a rule change that would allow athletes and athletic department staff members to bet on professional sports. Let them bet on professional sports. It's not your sport. It's not your team. It's not your league, conference, whatever. It just doesn't make sense. So I can't bet. So the World Series going on right now. Adam Jai, he can't place a bet on the World Series. Why? What the hell does the World Series have to do with the A-10 Dayton Flyers NCAA basketball? What does it have to do? People are so silly. The way people are reacting to this is if the NCAA was about to allow athletes to bet on the sport themselves, to bet on college basketball. That's the way people are acting. I saw one UD reporter yesterday put up the little praying hands as this announcement was made. I'm like, what are you thanking the Lord for this? What is this doing? You think that these athletes are going to they'll find someone else to make a bet for them. I mean, come on. It's so annoying. Also, the other thing I'll say, I know we talked about this yesterday. I thought this was interesting. I played the audio for you yesterday. I'm bringing all this up because I have no bad opinion of Adam Jai. I've heard nothing but great things about the kid. I have nothing against this kid. And I'm going to tell you right now, even if something comes out that he did do something stupid, I'm not going to think anything less of him. I just don't think that these mistakes make you a bad person. It just means you made a mistake. And so I want to make sure I put that disclaimer out there right now. But as I bring this up, I find it very interesting how hard in the paint UD is going to defend this kid. And based on their actions, what I mean by that is they must feel pretty damn confident that they are going to find nothing on him. And I hope that's the case. And I know you as Flyer fans hope that to be the case as well. So I thought Anthony Grant I thought when the team warmed up on Monday night ahead of their exhibition game with Bowling Green and Adam Jai was out there, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting. To me, this is nothing personal against the kid. I've heard nothing but great things about him, but I wouldn't want him anywhere near my program right now. I'm not gonna pull your scholarship. I want you to still go to class, and I need you to still get good grades, and I just need you to be at an arm's length from our program until the findings of this report come out. I don't want you on our bench or in our locker room because, now everything Dayton does with someone that's been accused of that until the findings come out, everyone's going to look at you a little sideways. Weird things happen in a game. I mean, Anthony Grant's known for blowing some leads. Anthony Grant is known for having some very weird finishes to games. I don't need to think that, well, I wonder what's going on there. Something looked fishy. Nah, just bad coaching. We've been seeing it for years. But that's besides the point. I don't want him near the program until he's been cleared. Period. I don't think he's a bad guy. I like the kid. Have heard nothing bad about it. But until you know that he hasn't done it, I don't want him anywhere near the program. So he sat on the bench. He was warming up with the team ahead of their matchup with Bowling Green on Monday night. Pictures were, swarming all over social media. A lot of Flyer fans were confused by this because UD had just released a statement on it. The reason I'm bringing this back up again today is because earlier today, I found this interesting. Earlier today, UD on their social media account put out their Twitter, on Twitter, 5 days until the season's here. All right, 5 days away. All right. It's not the tweet that I have up. For those watching on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page right now, I don't have the tweet pulled up, but this is the picture that they used. And the reason I found this interesting is because they are not trying to distance themselves from this kid whatsoever. So they use this picture right here, Adam Jai. He wears number 5, and they are saying we are 5 days away from the season. And they used his picture with his number and jersey name and all that stuff. Now, I'm not soft. I'm not offended by this. I just find this interesting because Anthony Grant is keeping him around the team. By the way, there are other players who are a part of this investigation, and they've been released from their team. Now, maybe those teams know something more about the particular player involved, and that's why they pulled the trigger on that situation. And maybe UD knows that their kid is not, even though he's a part of the investigation, maybe they know that Jai is not involved, but that he's still being investigated anyways, and that's why they're willing to go out on a limb like this. But to have him on the floor Monday night after a statement that was released, a vague one at that, about eligibility issues, trying to make it like a front as like it's a GPA thing and it had nothing to do with that. No, just your everyday gambling scandal, whatever. I thought that was a weird look. I thought it was a weird look on Monday night. I thought it was a weird look in the post game when Anthony Grant went on and on and on about how great of a kid he is and how much of a competitor he is. And he loves to be out on the floor with his teammates. All things that nobody's questioning, by the way. Never questioned his competitive drive. Never questioned his ability to be a good teammate. We know all of the Anthony Grant having to go out there to tell us all that. We all don't care about that. What we all want to know is he a part of some major cheating college basketball sports betting scandal? That's all we want to know. Simple as that. So I thought that was strange to have him warming up and on the bench ahead of the Bowling Green game. I thought it was strange for Anthony Grant to go on this long rant, and not really rant, but just praise-a-thon for his player who's being investigated by the NCAA for sports gambling and shaving points and all this other weird stuff, right? I thought that was weird. And then the third weird thing is this. Their actuals, and by the way, this isn't some social media intern that put this out there without permission. UD cares about their image probably more than any even Power 4 school that I know. They are very careful with what they allow out there. I mean, go look at the statement that they released earlier in the week. They're very careful. They're not going to tell you any more than they have to. It was brought to our attention by the NCAA about some eligibility concerns, dating back to his time, his previous program, letting you know, slight eligibility concerns. The situation did not occur here, so we're not responsible for it. It happened while he was at his previous school, and we're just going to hold him out. They care very much about and as they should, this isn't a terrible thing, by the way, but I'm just saying they care very much about how they're viewed. So I don't think, I'm very confident almost that this kid did nothing wrong because UD, they're so sanctimonious. They're so just very protective of everything. They would not risk this, in my opinion, if they were not 100% positive that this kid did nothing wrong. They would not have let him on the floor even to warm up and sit on the bench on Monday night if they felt he did something wrong. I don't think Anthony Grant goes on a long little, post-game praise fest for the kid if he maybe deep down thought he did something wrong. And I don't think that his picture would have been approved by the university or by the athletics department to use in a 5 days away. You could have used that opportunity, for McElveen to use that to maybe, use him to tie him in to that. RIP, by the way. Like, you could have used that. I thought it was very strange. I think it was almost done purposely. It wasn't some social media intern that accidentally used Adam Jai's picture, as you see here on the screen. That was done purposely. I think it was done purposely. I think that's the athletics department. I think that's the program. I think everything that has been done over the last couple of days post that statement is being done to let us all know the kid's done nothing wrong. And I think that's the case, and I hope that's the case. Because if not, UD's going to look really stupid. Okay, they're going to look really dumb if this kid is found to have done something wrong. If you're asking my opinion on it, if you think that I'm rubbing it in because I hate UD and all this stuff, I'm here to tell you my 2 cents on this. I don't think he did anything wrong. I don't think he did anything wrong. And the fact that UD is almost flaunting this kid in front of all of our faces days after. I mean, almost every day since. I think that's them confidently telling you this kid did nothing wrong. And he's going to be a huge fan favorite. I'm going to be a fan of his. I'm going to be pulling for him. The kid has talent. He was recruited by Rick Pitino when he was at Iona, which is unfortunately where a lot of this, where I think he, just being around it. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but when the findings come out, I think the kid's going to be fine. I just don't think UD does all this stuff if they truly felt he did anything wrong. It's that, or it's about to be a PR nightmare, because I'm going to highlight it again and again and again, how silly it was for them to do what they've done over the last 3 days if they weren't 1 billion% confident that the kid did nothing wrong, which is why I don't think he did anything wrong. Is what it is. 5 days till the season gets here for Dayton, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Wright State, all of it. I'm excited for college hoop season to be here, nonetheless. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. We'll be right back.
Justin Kinner Show. We've been expecting you. Right here on 1410.